Hello, everybody. Welcome to the weekly forecast. Happy Sunday, by the way. This is the weekly astrology forecast for the week of today, Sunday, March 8th through Saturday, the 14th, 2026. The theme here is courage with compassion and also destiny in motion. This week carries a pretty interesting blend of Pisces sensitivity and Aries courage. And if you had the chance to listen to the March overview, you know that in the middle of the month, around about now, we're sort of switching. We're still going to have Pisces activated, but Aries energies is coming. It's affecting a lot of our personal planets. So, this is where we're going to move between intuitive listening and really decisive knowing. And there's also this sense that there's a balance between spiritual awareness, energetic awareness, and staying deeply rooted and taking grounded action. And several aspects this week involve Venus in Aries and Mars in Pisces. This is going to create this kind of dance of heart-led bravery, Venus in Aries, and emotional awareness, heart-led bravery, Mars and Pisces, excuse me. But also Venus and Aries, because Mars rules Aries, and Mars isn't super comfortable in Pisces, but Pisces invites Mars to kind of take the uplifted, spiritually oriented action. And towards the end of the week, Mars is going to align with the North Node, and all this is going to suggest that you know taking action may well at the end of the week become a part of our karmic path forward. And in other words, this just means the things we do, the moment to moment things that we do, they carry significance. There's a ripple effect. So let's go ahead and get started with Sunday, March 8th. This is the day today. The words that come to mind are inspired, insight, as well as commitment. And the week opens with this kind of spark of insight as Uranus forms a quintile with Mercury. And this happens early Sunday morning. And this is sort of a subtle, but it's also a creative aspect that can bring Uranus is that lightning bolt of energy, reminding us that we are the high technology we seek. So there might be this kind of sudden clarity or inventive thinking, or just this, like, maybe even like just an intuitive a breakthrough of some sort. There's also just this sense of understanding and ideas arriving unexpectedly, Uranian instantaneously. So I would just offer, pay attention to what flashes through your consciousness today and your experience. Shortly after that, we have Venus conjuncting Saturn in the sign of Aries. And this is kind of just going to help the tone of the morning shift into something more grounded and mature. Venus, represents our love, everything we love, balance, harmony, justice, values, connection. And Saturn stands for responsibility and commitment and really putting things into 3D form instead of just having them be willy-nilly out there nebulous. That's structure. And so in the sign of Aries, this combination is really going to encourage honesty in relationships and honesty in interpersonal issues. You may find yourself asking some questions like, what am I really ready to commit to today? What deserves my loyalty? What deserves my energy? What deserves my consciousness? And then later in the morning on Sunday, we have Mars forming a semi sextile with Pluto. And this is going to just give the day this quiet undercurrent of determination and maybe even a subtle energetic knowing that there are karmic aspects afoot. And but Pluto's going to remind us that it doesn't have to be that something actually happens that's big today. This is about the strength building beneath the surface. So even if it doesn't look dramatic from the outside, when Pluto's involved, there's this kind of karmic shift that's happening. Moving on to the 9th of March, Monday, that's a day, tomorrow's a day for emotional wisdom. Early in the morning, Mercury in Pisces is trining Jupiter in Cancer. And this is going to create one of the more supportive aspects this week. This alignment is really going to help us open up our emotional intelligence, our sense of compassion, and our intuitive understanding. It's going to mean it's a really beautiful day. This is the only major aspect today. It's a really beautiful day for communicating from the heart, having meaningful conversations, but maybe even conversations with ourselves or with our guides. So this might come across as spiritual insight. Might be a good day to journal or meditate or write, or even just offer some support to others. You know, Mercury in Pisces already is operating through intuition, but Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and Jupiter in Cancer is another very intuitive sign. So the result here is a sense of perspective, emotional understanding, and maybe there's even emotional generosity or empathy or compassion that's moving through on Monday. On Tuesday, March 10th, the theme, we have two aspects with Pluto, and the theme here is about power, which is one thing Pluto is very deft with, as well as perspective. There's this sense of a deeper emotional intensity today. So first we have Venus sextiling Pluto, and this is going to give us some opportunities for potent emotional transformation. Pluto reveals truth, things hidden beneath the surface. Venus governs relationships, community justice, community values, and together and beauty. They can together, these two can really help us see clearly what is authentic, and also help us see clearly what is no longer aligned. That's a very March theme. But this isn't, it's worth noting, this isn't destructive energy. This is clarifying energy today. And later in the morning on Tuesday, we have another aspect that is painting a swath of color over the day, and that's Sun forming a semi-sextile with Pluto. And this may bring a little bit of subtle tension around control or power dynamics. There might be a sense of wanting to assert oneself, or maybe comfort and confront on an emotional on an emotional level. You know, do the right thing for something that has been lingering beneath the surface. So comfort and confront are interesting words to put together, and when I say that, I mean what I guess the first thing I said, which is just it's about power dynamics and it's about speaking truth to power. So if you feel like that, it's also worth noting that Pluto's role is to reveal what needs evolution. And also, as with everything, speaking from the heart is the most powerful way for us to communicate. Um, Wednesday, the 11th of March, is really a day of integration. Astrologically, it's a quieter day. And so, you know, which is ideal because after several days of emotional insight and transformation, Sunday through Tuesday, this is a nice moment to integrate. This is a good day to let the nervous system rest, to let clarity settle. Another one of the themes that I noted in the March energy forecast was just to be willing to be in stillness. Because sometimes the most positive and powerful and meaningful changes happen when we pause long enough to really understand and gain a larger perspective of what's happening. On Thursday, March 12th, we have a day of heart and a day of action. And we really have just one aspect on Thursday, and that's late Thursday evening. Venus is forming a semi-sextile to Mars. And this semi-sextile is linking Venus, the planet of love, planet of justice, the planet of beauty, with Mars, the planet of action. And it's an interesting thing right now because, as I mentioned, Venus is in Aries, and this is inviting bold expression. Mars rules Aries, and Mars is in Pisces. And Mars in Pisces is inviting us to take action through compassion and to take action through intuition and our cultivated wisdom. So one of the questions today is about, how can we enable and allow and embody two things that are seemingly different to coexist within us: courage and sensitivity. And those aren't mutually exclusive. We know that, right? But it's about, again, this isn't bold, thoughtless action. This is deeply connected, staying with our finger on the pulse of what's happening, that type of action and conversation, and action and non-action too. This is an invitation to act from our heart while remaining aware of the world around us. Friday, March 3rd is a day of destiny via action. It's one of the most karmically significant days this week. Earlier in the day on Friday, we have Venus forming a semi-sextile with the North Node. And so this is suggesting that there's a kind of subtle alignment between relationships and the scales of justice, as well as our own evolutionary path, the why we're here. But I would offer that the most important aspect arrives later, and that's when Mars is going to conjunct the North Node in Pisces. So this is another North Node activation, but it's a conjunction. And here, Mars represents action, as I mentioned, but it's also about, our drive, our initiative. And the North Node is where we're headed. The North Node is our soul's direction forward. And so when these two meet, we're often called to act in ways that feel meaningful or fated or just energetically on point. And there may be you might notice moments where courage is required. And this isn't aggressive courage. This isn't just blazing into the sunset courage. This is intelligent, emotionally sensitive, compassionate, energetically aware courage. And Pisces reminds us that, a destiny sometimes unfolds through a process. If Pisces knows anything, it's that everything matters. And sometimes when we get to the last sign of the zodiac, we realize we've been on a perfect journey. And thank goodness we didn't rush it. So, this is also reminding us that, we can have empathy, we can be of service, and we are spiritual and energetic beings. So, I would just say pay attention to what feels significant in your heart on Friday. And then we get to the last day in this forecast, and that is Saturday, March 14th. And this is a day where communication would be best served to be done with emotional and energetic awareness and sensitivity and healing. And this is kind of a softer but important tone. First, we have Mercury forming a semi-sextile with Venus, and this is linking communication with our relationships, with our interpersonal relationships, but also with our relationships with our society and our relationships with the collective. And this aspect is supporting gentle conversations and emotional understanding. Later in the evening on March 14th, Mars forms a semi-square to Chiron. And as is the case with Chiron, an old wound might be activated. And this might be around identity, assertiveness, confidence, self-awareness. But let's remember, Chiron represents healing through a process and through realizing that our own self-awareness is the tool. So if something tender arises, this is a really good day to treat it with patience rather than resistance, because healing often begins with recognition. So just in a quick summary, this week is there's a mixture here. There's insight in this week. There's emotional honesty in this week. There's also destiny aligned action. And let's just, you know, the invitation here is it's a simple week, but it's also a profound week. The invitation is for us to act with courage, as I mentioned, but to let compassion and our energetic and emotional awareness guide the direction of our action and guide the course of our action, and to keep our finger on our feelers out for what's going on and not just charging in. And so, you know, put it a little bit differently, there's small steps that we can take with sincerity, and that's likely going to carry a lot more significance than you expect. All right, have a blessed week. I will get the meditation to you guys out later shortly after this today. Take care.